Every now and again, I'll get suggestions for mods to cover on my Starbound Mod Showcase series. Sometimes these suggestions come from mod makers themselves who are curious to hear my thoughts on their works. Then there's the topic of this video, the Neki. Now, I know what some of you might be asking. Hey, didn't you make a mod showcase about the Neki already? Why, yes. Yes, I did. Almost 2 years ago, before I started shoehorning my voice into every single video I make. Back in April, this mod's creator, Junie, reached out to me and asked me if I was willing to revisit it sometime. I said yes, and it's taken me 3 months just to get to this point. To be fair, this mod's gotten a boatload of updates since April, on top of the boatload of updates it's gotten since my original video. Also, Junie asked me to hold off on making this video until after they added some updates. Still, why not revisit this mod? The Neki are one of my favorite custom races for Starbound. And, not to spoil things too early, those boatloads of updates made them more awesome than they were back when I made my original video about them. Before I really dive into the Neki mod, know that by default, the Neki's character sprites have, their features exposed. Obviously, I cannot show said features here. There is a patch to hide all of that, which I'll link in the description, and of course, that's what you'll be seeing in this video. With those disclaimers out of the way, let's get to the Neki mod itself. So, the Neki are cat people. The name kinda gave that away, but yeah, they're cat people. They have big fluffy ears and tails. They behave like cats. Their custom weapons are all claws. And they come with puns. Holy the puns. Actually, that's one of the most impressive things about this mod, the dialogue. Not just from the Neki, but from NPCs and their reactions to the Neki. The mod's description on its Steam Workshop page boasts that it has over 1,600 custom lines of dialogue regarding things like inspecting items with your matter manipulator. That's not even mentioning the custom dialogue present in the story missions and such. Some of that custom dialogue reveals some interesting facts about the Neki, which leads me to my next point. The Neki have lore deep enough that the resident Vorthoses of the Starbound community are probably dissecting it at this very moment. If they're not watching this video, that is. If they are, well, you know who you are, and I'm sure you have already corrected and or will correct me on the billion facts this video has about the Neki, much to my slight annoyance. Okay, moderate annoyance. All jokes aside, this mod has some surprisingly deep lore. Much of it comes from that custom dialogue I just talked about, but there are also Neki-related codices you can find. You pick up a few when you start playing. Reading through them reveals that the Neki race is a product of genetic engineering thanks to the Mininog by way of the USCM by way of, according to the mod's description, a, quote, renowned and eccentric, if somewhat deranged, entrepreneur of old. See, I told you this mod's lore runs deep. If you go to a friendly Mininog settlement, some of the NPCs you encounter will call you an agent and treat you pretty well. There's also a chance you'll find Neki NPCs in these settlements wearing custom Mininog armor. If you go to an Apex Rebel settlement, you're dubbed a product of the oppressor and an artificial pet, and are generally a target of hatred and prejudice. Going back to the mod's description for a moment, there's a part implying that one reason this mod was made was to explore stuff like that. How the various races, governments, and factions of the Starbound universe would react to such a people, especially given their backstory as a product of the Mininog and created to presumably spy on other governments and factions on Big Ape's behalf. Meanwhile, they're acting all innocent and playful and cute and cuddly and don't seem to give a crap about what others think of them. That's really what makes this mod so unique. But even if you don't care much about the lore or just want to play as a cute cat person, the Neki are still pretty unique. I mentioned before how the Neki's custom weapons are all claws. You start off by just pawing everything around you with minimal damage, but gradually work your way up to claws that can deal poison damage, electric damage, fire damage, and ice damage. Honestly, these higher tier claws feel so good to use. Just make sure you have plenty of healing items on hand before you go slashing everything in sight. You might need them depending on what armor you have. Speaking of, the Neki also have their own custom armor sets. Some look like they came straight from a random anime. Others look like this. Yes, this is what the Neki's Tier 1 armor set looks like. In case you can't see it, That's a thigh brace, a brace below the shoulder, a hairpin, and only a thigh brace, a brace below the shoulder, and a hairpin. Nothing else. This set's stats are exactly what you think they are. It's also a little weird how there are no Tier 3 and 5 armor sets. I'm going to assume those will be added in a future update. This mod also adds one tech, the Neki hops. You double tap, or tap then hold, left or right to hop, and you can hold down then press up to pounce. The pounce can also stun enemies within a short distance ahead of where you land. Pretty amazing when you pull it off. To top it all off, there's a bunch of clothing and furniture items, including pairs of wings and a massive cardboard box that acts as their bed because cat people. Since I haven't mentioned it already, the Neki's ship is basically a recolor of the vanilla Apex ship. Reading through the Neki's codices says it's a Miniknog stealth ship prototype and that the Miniknog agents who captured the Neki from Earth had to trick the Neki into believing the ship was abandoned. The Neki had been pestering him a ton during their mission, and while they seemed to like the ship, they shied away from it at the moment they saw the agents. Of course, the ship was rigged to launch at the moment the Neki boarded it. After the Neki fully became a Miniknog project, the Miniknog presumably gave every Neki agent their own stealth ship. By the way, the Neki's ship can be upgraded all the way up to Tier 10 if you have the mod that adds Tier 9 and 10 ships installed. And how have I not yet mentioned the Neki mod? Androids based off the Neki who behave almost exactly like the Neki. I made a video about them a year and a half ago, and not much has changed regarding them since then. They're not as feature-rich as the Neki, lacking things like the custom dialogue, but they're still pretty awesome. Be aware that like the Meki Neki's default character sprites are very much not safe for work, and there is a patch mod that makes them YouTube friendly. It's clear that there was a ton of love and care that went into making this, and it's why the Neki are one of my absolute favorite custom races for Starbound. They're up there with mods like Alithian races, the Shoggoth, the Avali, and the Arsenalbound mods, the Index and the Lost Tree. I've said before that some of my favorite Starbound mods have all these little details and extra touches that make them stand out from the crowd. Here, it's things like the custom sound effects, the furniture items, and the fact that their ears flap in the wind as you move. Not to mention the lore. This mod didn't need to go hard on backstory and lore. Junie could have simply said, here's a race of cute cat people, and left it at that. But they didn't. Because of that, this mod is that much more amazing and unique. Like I said earlier though, there are other reasons why the Neki are awesome. Their claw weapons, the fact that there are so many support mods letting you customize them to a degree. They might not be for everybody, but the Neki are still just... I don't know how else to say it. They're awesome. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more of me discussing random Starbound mods, I have a playlist I'll link at the end of the video. Please consider doing all the typical supporting people on YouTube things. Like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, all the things that'll help me please YouTube's algorithm overlords. You can also throw some money in my direction if you want by supporting me on Patreon and Ko-fi. Links to those are in the description. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye for now.